All right, I'm having my morning coffee. And while I'm having my morning coffee, I will watch the board meeting. It is now 1:30 p.m. East Coast.
And this ordinance addresses our annual service changes planned for the upcoming fiscal year 2024, and they would go into effect in September. Am I correct on that?
Oh, this is different.
And I'll ask General Counsel Shelley Devine to read the ordinance by
This is
title
the
only.
one for September.
Thank you, President Simmons. Ordinance number 373 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, adopting FY 2024 service changes and revising route designations. This
All
is the first.
right, let's take a look at it now that they've put their agenda back on their website. All right, let's see. This is okay. What are we gonna do? Ordinance 373 will make bus service changes and revise route designations set forth in TRIMET code. Blah, 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 blah. Planning and policy staff have prioritized the need to restore ridership after you destroyed your system. Provide equitable service. Yeah. Improve service to Markham Hill and help students access schools. Yes, you're great. All right. Upgrade 5 bus lines. Frequent service, by the way, is TriMet. Frequent service is actually 10 minutes or less service, not 15-minute service, because if one drops out, you have a 30-minute wait. So you have to have 10 minutes or less. Ideally, 8-minute service is called frequent service. Improve service to low-income communities. Yes, they're going back. They're getting rid. Remember when it used to be the choice rider? That was the whole shtick for transit. Remember that? I'm sure you do if you paid attention long enough. Now they've gone back to transit is for poor people. So much for the choice riders. That's how they justified all those max lines, by the way. Increase service to Markham Hill. Change some routes to help the schools. Increase ridership and efficiency, restore frequencies on 3 non-frequent lines. Back to where they were when they decided to destroy it. And no explanation given. They just did it. We're cutting our service 20%. No hearings. No Title VI. We are doing this, and that's the way it goes. All right, let's see what they're doing. Hawthorne. Name change only. Oh, now they're going to call it Hawthorne and Foster. Woo. Must have been a $100,000 consultant to come up with that. 19, upgrade 30 minutes to 30 minutes. You mean it's not even 30 minutes service? It's worse than 30 minutes service? In other words, it's shit service. Operate earlier and later. Okay. Route over Titicaum instead of the Ross Island. Discontinue service on first. Okay, that's probably smart. Okay, that's lovely. 35 Macadam, Greeley. Upgrade to 30 minutes. So what are they doing? Like 45-minute service on these lines? So in other words, you can't really take these buses. If it's a 30-minute service and one drops out, you're stuck. So it's upgrade to 30-minute service. In other words, it's like 45-minute service. Okay, the South Shore will be discontinued. Okay. Lewis and Clark. Move route away from Lewis and Clark. Yeah, there was a lot of pushback on that, but Jarrett Walker discounted it by saying, well, all the responses were from the lines that we're cutting. Well, what do you think you're going to do? Get responses from the lines that you're not cutting? Okay, there was a lot of pushback, but as we know, it didn't do any good. So what, the Arnold Creek neighborhood, whoever that is, operate high school trips only. I'm sure this is not going to help them at all. They're screwed. They have a shuttle bus that they run themselves. Hopefully they'll just increase the service on that. 43. I've drove this. I've drove the 35. Never drove the 19. Drove the 14. I hated that route. Okay, what are they doing to 43? Reroute. They're going to go to Markham Hill on the 43 via Tigard Transit. Okay, did it go to Tigard? I don't believe that did go to Tigard. That went to Washington Square back in the day. Taylor's Ferry, Barber Boulevard, Spring Garden, Terwilliger, discontinue service to Washington Square. Okay, so they're changing this all around. Okay, 48 Cornell, upgrade to frequent. 15-minute service, not frequent, but it's good enough for a TRIMET. And they're going to do it 7 days a week. All right, well, that's a good change, I guess. Small route change to Northwest Barnes Road between Cornell and Cedar Hills. Discontinue service on Northwest Cornell and Cedar Hills Boulevard. Huh. 51, everybody's favorite route. Extend service to Hamilton, so they're going to go over the hill. Sunset Boulevard. Discontinue the downtown loop. And it's only for school trips. So that's... Okay, the 52. They haven't been running the 52 for... They haven't been doing 15-minute service. That is a busy route. Boy, they really screwed up their system, didn't they? 54. They haven't been doing that either, 15-minute service. These are going to get 7 days a week service, though, so that's a definite improvement. 55 gone. Nobody wrote it. It's true. 56. They're going to take the 56 to the hospital. Discontinue service on Barber, Nato, Harrison. So it's not even going to go to downtown. Headway offset with line 33. What? 61. Goodbye. 62. Small route change to Cornell and Cedar Hills. Discontinue service on Barnes. 64 gone, 65 gone, 66 gone, 68 gone. 77, upgrade frequent service, 7 days a week. I don't know how. How have they been running this transit system without any service? Like no service. Extend some trips to Troutdale to Industrial Park. 87, upgrade to, that's a terribly unreliable run. 15-minute service, 7 days a week, okay. 94, discontinue service between Tigard and Portland via Barber. So what are they going to do with it then? Maintain service on 99 between Tigard and Sherwood. So you're going to have to go to Tigard to get the bus. You have to change to get to Portland. Remember when it was all one route? I do, because I drove it. 99, route change to Moody, South Bancroft Street. Discontinue service on First. All right. All right, let's hear what they have to say about it. That's a good breakdown.
First reading and public hearing.
Thank you. Before we hold the public hearing, Mr. General Manager, do you have any?
This is 3 hours into the meeting now, and now they're going to hold a public hearing. You know, it would be like if you actually cared about what people think, you might want to have all the public hearings at the beginning of your meeting. But they don't want to hear what the public has to say, so they don't do that. That's intentional, I'm sure.
Any comments?
Yes, thanks, President Simmons, members of the board. This ordinance contains some exciting news.
Exciting.
With this proposal here for our next fiscal year.
Our exciting news. All those runs used to be frequent service, by the way. They got rid of it. And now they're saying we're upgrading it when the fact is they're just bringing it back to the way it was, which was 15-minute service. So see how they spin it? They spin it. It's nothing but spin coming out of this place. Let's destroy it so then we can say how great we are when we put it back.
Year, which begins on July 1st. Included is the first big package of service improvements coming out from our Forward Together service concept. Remember, Forward Together is all about increasing ridership and bringing better service to areas considered low income to connect people with more places and better opportunities throughout the...
Better opportunities for you, serfs. I hear the king of TRIMET will give you serfs better opportunities. So proclaimed.
Region. With these adjustments, we will begin restoring service hours. I want to say that again. we will begin restoring service hours that have been cut over the last 3 years, due first to COVID-19 pandemic and then our historic
Pandemic, where the rich stole all the money and left you in the ditch, gave you a fake vaccine, and now we're all getting sick from COVID still, and nobody even cares anymore.
operator shortage. TriMet is ready to be
Operator shortage that you created because you didn't try to get anybody. You just turned off your training department, I guess.
begin rolling out these changes, and we do anticipate having adequate operator staffing to support them. Adequate operated staffing to support them.
Yeah, they seem to have an adequate operators at this point. And they could have done this a long time ago, but they didn't want to. They're doing better than the other transit agencies, TriMet. I mean, they offered, from what I can see, from my understanding of the national picture on transit, TriMet has a better deal than most of the other ones. Actually, I think it may even be the best deal. It's certainly better than MBTA, which is still cheaping out. And Boston is way more expensive than Portland.
Once again, I'll turn it back to you, Tom Mills and Luke Norman, to
Yeah, Tom Mills, the man who's actually running everything.
provide details.
Thank you, Sam. And thank you, President Simmons and board.
I'm not making that up. I really do think Tom Mills is like running the whole show when it comes to the operational side of this place.
As Sam mentioned, we're very excited to bring an ordinance to the board that begins to restore the service that we cut.
Wait, let me point this out, okay? So they're bringing an ordinance to the board to restore service, but they never brought an ordinance to the board to destroy the service. You see, they never asked anybody when they destroyed the service. They just did it. It was a unilateral move on their part. But here they are telling us, we're proud to bring an ordinance to restore the service. Get it? Am I the only one that understands what they actually pulled here? What a con job they did?
During the pandemic. Unfortunately, we can't bring an ordinance restoring all the service, but we're making a big bite out of it. And that is because...
Actually, they did actually, now that I think of it, they did actually pass an ordinance to cut the service. There was no public comments on it. No, there was no outreach. There was none of their marketing campaigns. There was none of their titles. They just did it, and then the board did pass it. I do remember that now. They did actually pass the ordinance to destroy the service without any of their analysis.
As Sam mentioned, our operator shortage is easing thanks to the hard work done by a lot of TriMet staff
Yeah, the hard work. How about the pay and the bonus? Don't give me this hard work shit.
attract operators to our system. This ordinance will bring changes to 21 bus lines, and it's really the first set of lines that will be represent an implementation of Forward Together, the Forward Together plan. I'm excited to say that this will be a 7 percentage point increase in service, so we will go from approximately 21% down from our pre-pandemic levels to approximately 14%. Oh, I'm sorry, if we can go, that was on the slide that I just mentioned, and we'll go to the next slide. When deciding where to make the improvements, we set some priorities for ourselves. First and foremost, we need to restore ridership. We need to get more folks on the system, and so we are looking at improvements that we feel have the best chance to attract more riders to the system. We also, in doing so, we want to improve service to communities where people earn low incomes, restore some service to pre-pandemic levels. There are some route changes. We want to help students get to school, better serve Markham Hill, where OHSU and the VA hospital are located. But of course, in doing this, we would be reallocating service from low ridership lines to these areas where we think we can get better ridership. So that would result in some discontinuation of service. Next slide, please. So the first set of improvements would be increasing 5 bus lines to frequent service. One of those lines, line 48, would require a small route change. Another line, line 77, would require an extension up to the Troutdale Reynolds Industrial Park, where there is a large Amazon distribution facility, as well as FedEx has a facility. And then you might recognize some of these lines were advocated for during the public comment. So lines 48, 52, 44, and line 87, all of which we hope to bring to frequent service. And we'll go to the next slide. Again, I'm showing the frequent service network map, and you can see highlighted in yellow.
It's not actually frequent, but it's decent service. 15-minute service is decent service, but it's not actually frequent service.
All the lines, the new lines that would be upgraded to frequent service, and of course I kept the 17 in there, hoping that that passes as well. So that's what our new frequent service network would look like should you approve this proposal in April. We'll go to the next slide.
Of course, they're going to approve it, Tom. What do you think?
I mentioned earlier there are some lines.
Why do you play this game of like, the board must approve it? I don't know if they'll approve it. Will they approve it? Why do you play these games? We know the truth here. The board will do whatever they're told. That's the truth. We heard it right out of Simmons' mouth.
Lines that we want to restore service to their pre-pandemic levels, as well as make some route changes. These are a list of those lines. We'll go through those quickly. The next slide, please. So starting with line 19, we want to operate that line over the Tillicum crossing. This would speed up the line as well as serve higher ridership areas like South Waterfront and OMSI. And we also recommend discontinuing a low ridership loop through a very residential neighborhood in Eastmoreland. We call it the Rex Loop. We only do this a few times a day, but really I looked it up just recently. We average 7 boardings a day, but yet we're...
Okay, those are 7 human beings that are being stranded, okay? They see how the technocracy doesn't even think about the fact that they're hurting 7 people? They're hurting 7 people. I saw this play out myself when I was driving back there on the 67, and they decided they were going to cut the 67. There was going to be no Sunday service anymore. And I saw how many people were hurt. By TRIMET standards, it wasn't many people, like 30, 40. But I have a whole bunch of videos about that. But TRIMET didn't give a shit. They don't look at you as people. They're like, it's a technocrat. They're kind of all sociopaths in a way, because as he just said, 7 people, who cares about those 7 people, right? Let's just keep bailing out banks, sending money to kill Russians, and let the 7 people walk. That's the society we live in.
Inconveniencing a lot more folks when we do that. And then, of course, we would upgrade this service to 30-minute service. It's pre-pandemic level. Next slide. Line 35, south of the Selwood Bridge to Lake Oswego along Riverside, we don't get a lot of rides, and what we're recommending doing is still serving it, but alternating trips and having every other trip served to Williger. By doing this,
you can't get many riders on a bus that's every half hour, okay? You want people to ride transit, it has to be available, frequent, reliable, and that's one thing you don't do. Maybe on, the 57's reliable, I guess. The 72 is more or less reliable in the fact that you want to wait too much longer now that they've got their operator ranks filled.
Yes, we could operate by Lewis and Clark College, and as well as some commercial areas on Taylor's Ferry Road. And then also we recommend restoring this service to its pre-pandemic level of 30-minute service weekdays. Next slide. I mentioned earlier when talking about line 48 that there would be a small route change as well. This is really a swap. Line 48 today operates on Cornell Road to Cedar Hills Boulevard, and line 62 operates briefly on Cornell to Barnes Road. We would just switch those so that the 48 goes to Barnes and the 62 goes to stays on Cornell longer. The reason for this is with the increase of line 48 to frequent service, we want to make sure that that is operating through an area that has higher density housing and commercial, and so we can maximize the ridership on that and better serve that community. So that is the rationale for that route change. Next slide. Line 94 is a line today that operates locally between Sherwood and Tiger Transit Center, and then north of Tiger Transit Center, it operates in a limited stop, almost express fashion to downtown Portland. It is overlaying the existing line 12 frequent service in this area. And through Forward Together, we identified a number of these lines that were, pre-pandemic, designed to get people from the suburbs to downtown Portland for work every day. We've seen ridership on these lines drop as people work from home. And so what we're proposing is actually just maintaining the local portion between Sherwood and Tiger Transit Center, but increasing the frequency. So instead of running every half hour, it would run every 20 minutes. Next slide. And then the last major route change in this segment is line 99. As you can see in the map, there's quite a bit of a gap between the northbound and southbound directions. That's the solid line. And what we would like to do is change the route so that the line 99 goes through South Waterfront. The southbound direction is only 1 block away from the northbound direction. And in doing so, it allows us to better serve a high density, both residential and employment area. The next set of changes is to look at how we can better get students to school. We'll go to the next slide. Line 39, Lewis and Clark. I mentioned earlier, line 35, serving Lewis and Clark. By doing that, that allows us to kind of free up line 39 to serve an area of Southwest Portland that doesn't have service today. And we hear a lot about from families wanting to get their students to Ida B. Wells High School. So we would be able to do this. Line 39 to Lewis and Clark doesn't get a lot of rides, so we think that we can actually get more doing this. Next slide.
See, it's all neoliberalism. How do we get more people? What are we going to get more? We need more fair-paying people.
Line 51, it operates up in the West Hills, and today it serves Lincoln High School, and it does a loop through downtown Portland. What we would like to do is actually extend it further down the hills to serve Ida B. Wells High School, and then turn around in the Burlingame area. In doing so, though, we would shift it a bit, and so we wouldn't do the loop through downtown. Again, the downtown portion doesn't have the majority of the demand. The majority of the demand are students getting to school, and we would still be able to maintain that. Next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, another priority was to improve service to Markham Hill. We'll jump to the next slide. And I think you've seen this slide during the Forward Together presentations. What we would like to do is take two lines, lines 56 and 43, and operate those up Markham Hill to OHSU and the VA hospital. Today, from Washington County and Southwest Portland, the only way to get to OHSU is either one of the peak hour, rush hour only, weekday only lines, or you ride all the way downtown and you have to go up. By doing this, we would provide all-day service to the Hill from Washington County, from Southwest Portland, and by having them both go together, we could offset them, so we actually would have frequent service between Hillsdale and the top of the hill. So that's where we are with that. And the next slide. And as I mentioned, in order to make these, we are looking to discontinue some lines and reallocate those service hours to...
So boarding rides per hour, that's per hour. 10, 20, 34, 44, say 50 per hour. So that's several hundred people left in the ditch. Sorry, you don't count. We're leaving you in the ditch. And that's the way it goes. You get no voice in this decision.
Lines and areas where we think we'll get more ridership. And you can see here the boardings per hour are quite low on these lines. Next slide. And we're just about done here. There are some name changes, which is required by ordinance. And you can see as we change some routes and where they go, we want to change the name so that people can understand better where the bus line goes. And then, as you know, the next set of slides are the outreach. It is the same outreach we went over in the last group of slides, so I won't go through all of it. But just to let you know, we initially made these proposals in the fall through Forward Together outreach, and then again partnering with.
What hypocrisy, Forward Together? Like somehow these technocrats are moving forward with you. It's such bullshit, fake propaganda.
Public Affairs Department on the fare increase. So if we could jump ahead to the Title VI slides. And while we do that, I will mention we did hear quite a bit from folks. As you can imagine, when you change a line, when you move a line, when you discontinue a line, you do hear negative comments.
Obviously, you're going to leave people in the ditch. You want them to be happy about it? You're going to get the same response bus drivers do, except you can't get smacked in the head.
Sometimes when you make improvements, you don't hear very much, and it's a little surprising.
No, it's not surprising at all, Tom.
You know, unfortunately, bad news gets a lot of attention, and good news doesn't get enough attention. But we do feel comfortable with these proposals moving forward.
Of course you do.
And with that, I will turn it over to Luke.
Oh, now we're going to get this. I guess it's. I mean, what's the point of this, man? Here it is. Which I don't know. Let's listen to what he says. I don't want to look at it because it's garbage.
Thank you, Tom. President Simmons and members of the board, I'm here to review the FY24 Annual Service Plan Equity Analysis.
I'm surprised they have a white guy doing it. It's always been a black guy before.
In accordance with the requirements outlined in FTA's Title VI Circular. Next slide. As noted earlier, this slide provides an overview of TRIMET's equity analysis decision-making process for fare and major service changes, outlining the evaluation of the type of change, identifying potential impacts, and then, if needed, evaluating alternatives. Next slide. So as noted earlier, all our policies help us determine possible impacts for our low-income and minority communities. And we apply these policies both to a line and system-level analysis, which I'll review a few today. Next slide. So as noted, there are different types of analysis for different types of service changes. Since the FY24 annual service plan included both major service improvements and reductions, I will review the analysis and results for both of those with you. Today we'll start our analysis with the major service improvements. Next slide. So for the FY24 annual service plan, 19 routes met the major service change threshold, which requires an evaluation of potential impacts. Minor changes to other routes did not meet the threshold and are not included in this analysis. As shown on this slide, 10 routes met the threshold due to an improvement to route length, frequency, or span.
Yeah, it was actually good.
Next slide. So as an overview of the major service improvement analysis we'll be reviewing today, there were 6 potential line level impacts for minority communities, 1 potential line level impact for low income communities, but no system level impacts for minority or low income communities. Next slide. So at the line level, for minority populations, a major service improvement to a single line is considered to have a potential disparate impact if the population within the line service area are at least 3% less than the minority populations of the TRIMET district as a whole.
Maybe tomorrow.
Since the minority population identified for lines 19, 35, 43, 51, 54, and 56 were 3% lower than the district average of 32%, these were identified as potential disparate impacts, which will be
All right,
further
wait,
examined.
I don't need to listen to this. This is just garbage.
FY24 Annual Service Plan, 9 routes met the major service reduction threshold.
What is this crap? I'm not going to listen.
A slightly higher percentage of the district's low-income populations will be negatively impacted. It's less than the established threshold, so these findings do not result in a disproportionate
They have a whole
burden.
bureaucracy for this. Jesus.
Populations do not stand to be impacted substantially more by the major service reductions compared to non-minority and higher income populations.
Yeah, all the service cuts were to the, quote, nice areas.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's take the vote,
Now I
ladies and
want to
gentlemen.
actually go to the public hearing for ordinance 373, and we
Okay, we're at 3 hours and 10 minutes in, and now they're going to do the public hearing. What a joke.
do have April Bertelson, who has signed up
We have
to
one?
speak. April?
They waited 3 hours to do this? Oh my God.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for waiting 3 hours before we let you talk.
Good to have you.
Good to have you. Where is- come on. Give 'em
Is
help,
the
give 'em
mic
help.
on?
There we go.
Thank
My
you.
name is April Bertelson. I'm Transit Coordinator with the City of Portland Bureau of Transportation. And as you know, I'm here to provide testimony for PBOT on Ordinance 373. I want to be clear, though, that I am not necessarily endorsing or commenting about the full set of service changes proposed. However, I have some general comments and want to express support for a few specific service changes we greatly welcome.
We don't need to listen to the support. We need to hear the critic, okay? Well, they're going to do it, so it doesn't matter what you think.
Transit is important to the City of Portland, and a successful transit system that better serves riders helps us achieve many key city, regional, and state policies and goals around climate, equity, livability, and how we grow and how we move. One such policy is that we have a 25% mode share goal for transit. We do this together. So we're glad to see that TRIMET restoring increasing service, and this is important for welcoming back riders and growing future ridership. We support TRIMET's prioritizing equity and better serving people who continue to ride during the pandemic, many who were frontline workers and people who rely on transit for all of their travel needs. And I know that sometimes comes with difficult choices, but grateful to see centering around equity. We hope that TRIMET will continue monitoring conditions and ridership patterns in the coming years and continue reevaluating service needs. Certainly, we have expressed support for Forward Together generally, and I know this is an incremental year-by-year service change. We remain in a time of change as travel behavior and workplace practices continue to evolve.
A time of change that was forced on us by an oligarchy that decided to deconstruct the world for nothing. They did it on purpose.
Even our very own, the City of Portland. And so we hope that this can inform future annual service changes. So we ask that please be flexible and agile in these dynamic times. Now for some specifics, I want to voice support for several service changes that advance our plans and projects. This includes service changes in the east side, including making lines 77 and 87 frequent service. Both of these transit lines were prioritized in our Growing Transit Communities Plan, adopted in 2017, to improve safety and access to transit help grow that transit community, if you will, and support future frequent service changes. And so here we are, and thank you. Line 87 was also a priority in the Division Transit Project bus service reallocation recommendations, and that was part of our locally preferred alternative and conditions of approval. So happy to see that happening too. Also,
You're
service
on time,
changes on
lady.
Line 75, Macadam, Greeley, that
You're out of time. Get out of here.
will go to more than 30 minutes. We're currently pursuing a transit priority project along North Greeley, partnering with TRIMET and Luke in particular, in supporting that. That will help to benefit, hopefully, both buses and freight. And also the service changes in Southwest. These will restore service on Southwest Capitol Highway in Hillsdale, where we have a Rose Lane project that installed bat lanes along Southwest Capitol, approaching Sunset Boulevard, as I think you know, a challenging project. So I want to acknowledge that the upgrades in Line 54 to frequent service and the bundle of other route services and changes to provide all day.
Great technocrat. Now get out of here. I don't want to hear her. Okay.
Signed up that would like to address ordinance 373.
Nobody's going to wait around for 3 hours except somebody who's getting paid to talk to you.
Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and I'm going to open it up and ask Tom and his colleague to come forward again for maybe some board questions. Could we have the board members that are virtual back on the screen? There we are. Welcome back. I'll now pose the question to the board. Are there any other questions or further discussions on 373? Director Gonzalez?
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, President Simmons. Thank you for the presentation. A lot of information, a lot of changes, a lot of outreach, and a lot to digest. So, you know, the fact that we all as board members represent different districts leads me to hyper-focus on my particular district, and perhaps my board members will share this interest in just making sure
Glasses. What happened to your glasses?
that if there's anything within these service plans, is there anything within districts that you wish would have advanced further, or is there anything we can do to build the momentum or ensure that any risks to momentum are addressed within our districts? Is there anything that we can do as board members to help and support the collaboration with our agency partners within our collective districts?
Thank you for that question. The first part of your question I'll answer first, which is yes, there are a lot of things I wish we could have put into this proposal, but we're just not there yet with the operators. But I am excited about the size of the proposal that we do have. And then the second part of your question of how you can help us, and in a way that's really a call to action on our end to ask you, reach out to you, and ask you to join us in our efforts when speaking with the community, when speaking with jurisdictions, at open house meetings, et cetera, to help us generate the excitement that there is for these.
The excitement for you bringing back what you took away. There's no, you're just bringing back what you took away with some, route adjustments. And you're also eliminating routes. So what excitement? What exactly is the excitement here?
These improvements.
Thank you. I appreciate the work, and I know that as we transition from the community outreach focus into implementation, this is where the rubber meets the road with our agency partners. So I encourage our agency partners within the footprint to lean into this work. Thank you to PBOT for showing up and expressing what I think throughout our district boundary all share. We want this system to work well, to be robust, because it is going to be a vital source of revitalization as we come around past the pandemic.
Thank you.
Yes.
Pandemic, shut up.
I'm starting to have less time to have influence here. So one of the things that has been on my mind since I joined the board that we never discuss, and I realize it has to do with frequency. But what would make transit more viable for people is the length of time it takes to get from point A to point B. And I realize it changes. It changes based on traffic, it changes on frequency, it changes on all of that. But I think to the extent when we make service changes, if we could give an approximate that would give people who think that it would take a lot longer to use transit, to have a better sense of it as being a viable option for them as an alternative. And I know how difficult that is, but it should be easier on Max. It's less easy on bus, but it's not impossible. And I'm reminded of our former board member, Travis Stovall, who talked about getting on his bike in Gresham and beating the bus downtown on his bike. And part of it also has to do with the frequency of bus stops. And so I think when we look at service changes, we have to consider the bus stops, how much time it takes, is it a viable alternative? Because I can tell you right now, when I don't ride, it's because it would take me an hour and a half to get someplace, and instead of 15 minutes in my car. So that's got to be part of service planning in the future. And as much as I've talked about it, we've never been able to try to grapple that issue, and I do think it needs to be addressed. And so that's my claim to ask you, that to try to find a way to give an approximate, not a guarantee, but an approximate, both for light rail and bus, particularly FX. And I realize that FX has issues with the train, stopping it. Maybe we need to look at another route for FX if we really want that to be the frequent service to downtown. So service changes, providing access is one piece, providing reliability is one piece, providing expediency is a piece, and we never talk about the expediency piece. So I ask that be an equation that you think about in future, and see if you can't come up with some approximates.
Sure. Thank you.
So any other comments or from board members? I don't see any. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. This is really exciting. I'm excited to see some of the progress of Forward Together, and I look forward to future ones, because I think there is some excitement throughout the district with some of the proposals. I know that because of staffing shortages, we can't do more, but this is a great start, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as there's no other business to come before the board today, I'm going to adjourn the business meeting.
What, you're going to vote?
And on our next regular scheduled meeting is Wednesday, April 26th.
All right, are we done?
However, we do have a board meeting on the 29th, which I think is on everyone's calendar. We do have one item yet on the board's agenda, and it's a board briefing. And I'm going to ask that we take that we come back at 12:25 for that briefing on the transit-oriented development.
Oh, the transit-oriented development farce. Okay, I've had enough. That somewhat interesting. Now I can start. It's 2 o'clock. Didn't take too much time. Over and out.